Jnanatimirandasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmilitan Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Hanupeta Apeta Kritam Rapaino Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmaitaya Tarvo Vinedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatusmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaivanarottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Abhaktya Vihina Pararalakshay Kiptashtakamadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrande Namaste Charanarvindam Tavevasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayanam Charanandike Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So we are going to begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nichalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Parasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nichalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Parasta Tatsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj under our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Okay, so we're going to continue on with the Sri Bhajan Rahasya. And let's see, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to quote another verse from the Sri Upadesamrta. Okay, so he says, before that, a Madhyam Bhakta renders service to the three kinds of Vaishnavas. Upadesamrita states. So why is he saying that? Because we've been talking about Anartha Navriti, and he's been trying to bring us to the platform where serious Anartha Navriti takes place. We're aspiring to come to the Madhyam plane where one is chanting Shuddhanam, or at very least very deeply and seriously engaged with deep faith in the stage of Nishtha. And so that's Madhyam, right? So he's going to give us some information about that by quoting this verse. First, I'm going to read Srila Prabhupada's translation of this verse because it's a more it's a more just plain literal translation, right? Whereas the translation of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj is kind of a Bhavanuvad, an expanded translation that includes almost like purport within it, which Srila Prabhupada himself would also do time to time. So, the verse is, Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshashti chet pranati bishcha bhajanta misham shushushaya bhajana vigyam ananya manya nindari shunya hridamipshita sangalabdya. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisance to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. This is a very important verse. This is text 5 of Sri Upadesamrta. And Srila Prabhupada gives quite an extended purport on that. Originally, I thought I would, why don't I read this purport, but it would take us a couple of days. And then there's the purports of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Radharaman Goswami, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar comments on it. And then we have also a purport of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj in this Bhajan Rahasya. And I thought, well, we're doing Bhajan Rahasya. So we're going to hear what we're going to hear, and maybe I'll take a few select things that Srila Prabhupada said, but we're going to continue on because we may be able to finish this chapter pretty soon. So, in this translation, in this verse, what's the verse? Let's hear it once more. Krishteti yasya giritam manasaduriyeta dikshasti chet pranati bischa bhajantami sham shushushaya bhajana vigya mananya manya nindari shunya hridam ipsita sangha labdya. That person who utters Krishna's name by just once calling out, "Oh Krishna," is a Kanishta Adhikari, and one should offer him respect within one's mind. That person who fully understands the principle of Diksha, who has accepted Diksha from a qualified guru, and performs bhajan of Bhagavan in accordance with Vaishnav conventions, is a Madhyam Adhikari. One should respect such a devotee who is endowed with the correct understanding of reality and illusion by offering obeisance unto him, and so forth. Now, that person who properly understands the science of bhajan, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vaishnava scriptures, and performs exclusive bhajan of Sri Krishna, is a Mahabhagavat. Due to his undeviating absorption in Krishna, the pure heart of such a devotee is free from faults, such as the tendency to criticize others. Anybody here criticize others? Have that tendency? Not a Mahabhagavat yet. He is expert in bhajan, which means he is skilled in the method of remembering Radha Krishna's eternal eightfold daily pastimes through Manasi Seva, service performed within the mind. That's real bhajan. Bhajan means absorption on that level, in the level of bhav. Before that, it's not, we call it bhajan. How's your bhajan? What's your bhajan? It's not really bhajan. What does he say? Skilled in the method of remembering Radha and Krishna's eternal eightfold daily pastimes through Manasi Seva. Throughout the day, they're remembering Krishna in the different stages of the day and the pastimes that relate to them. They're continually internally absorbed, even though you may see such a personality appearing to interact with the world outside, even with others. Inside, this is where they're at. Knowing him to be a Mahabhagavat whose heart is established in the particular mood of service to Sri Radha Krishna for which he aspires. In other words, knowing that person who's serving Radha Krishna in the mood that we want, which means svajatiya, and who is affectionately disposed towards us, their susnigdha, one should seek his association, considering it to be topmost. One should honor him by offering prostrated obeisance, making relative inquiry, and rendering service unto him with great love. There's a lot in that verse. I'm going to read the commentary of Srila Narayana Maharaj. He says, because Mahabhagavats see everything as related to Krishna, they look upon all with equal vision. They are devoted to Krishna bhajan like the Madhyamadikari, and intent on chanting the holy name like the Kanishta Adhikari. In other words, the qualities of the Kanishta and the Madhyam are already included in the Uttam, but of course on a much higher level, right? So the Madhyamadhikaris have prem for Sri Krishna. So what does that mean? Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says this. Prem means, prem actually begins at Shraddha. That's an atom of prem. It's the first detectable sign of prem in the heart. Prem is dormant in the heart of all living entities, right? In that verse, Kriti Sadhya Bhavet Sadhya Bhavasya Sadhanabhida Nitya Siddhasya Bhavasya. It's eternally existing in the heart, and Prakritam Hridi Sadyata. And by the process of bhajan, or sadhan, and then bhajan, that prem awakens. And so it's sometimes said that the madhyam has prem because they're awakening on a much higher level than the kanishta. They're chanting Shuddhanam. They're getting genuine taste. That's going to grow and grow, of course, as they develop. And asakti is quite extraordinary, or deep attachment. So in that sense, they have prem. In that sense, they're Shuddha Vaishnavas, but not like the Uttams, right? Not like the Uttams. And the bhav of the Uttam Adhikari, one who may not have yet entered into Krishna's pastimes, but they have a conception of their spiritual form internally, they're also considered to have prem, but not quite fully developed yet either. Prem is something that can only be experienced when one has achieved one's vastu siddhi, one's eternally perfect form in Krishna Lila. This material body can't accommodate prem. But once one has it, once one has taken birth in Krishna Lila, become a completely perfected soul, then one may come to this material plane. One may descend. Those persons can contain prem. They can have it. But those who are progressing towards that, full prem doesn't develop until we leave this body and enter into Mahaprabhu and or Krishna Lila. So, the Madhyamadhikaris have prem for Sri Krishna. They offer appropriate respect to the three levels of devotees by rendering service, offering obeisance, and offering respect mentally. They always endeavor to turn the conditioned living entities toward Krishna, and they are indifferent towards those who are averse to Krishna. However, they do not possess equal vision like the Uttamadhikari Mahabhagavat, and if they deceitfully imitate him, they will very quickly fall down. So what does that mean? The Madhyam is developing internal sentiments. But what is that equal vision? That's described in the Bhagavatam, and Srila Prabhupada quotes those verses in his purport. The Uttamadhikari is not really relating in the same way on this plane, even when they're here. They are continually absorbed internally in their service to Krishna, and their vision is that every living entity is like them. They see every living entity according to their perfected state, and not only that, they see them all having the same mood of affection that they have. That's a very astonishing state. So that Uttamadhikari, he can't really preach in this world unless they adopt the mentality of the Madhyam, where you can discriminate and deal with people differently according to their eligibility. So sometimes it's said that the Uttamadhikari comes down to the level of Madhyam. They come down in that sense that they will discriminate according to people's level of development, but they're never coming down to the limits of the Madhyamadhikari's bhakti. They're always situated in their perfected state, but they're dealing like the Madhyam would deal. So the Kanishta Adhikari knows that the name of Sri Krishna is supremely auspicious, and therefore he takes shelter of chanting the holy name. Right? We know that, and so we're taking that process. He does not understand, however, that the position of the Madhyamadikari is high, and that he should strive to reach that level in the future. Right? The Kanishta can be quite complacent, not really understanding bhakti in its deeper sense, and they think, oh, well, I'm a devotee. I may be the head of a mad. I may be the head pujari. They can't tell who's a high devotee and who's not. They just see in conventional ways, even what we could call institutional ways. So they don't know who is a Mahabhagavat. They don't know who's a Madhyam. And they don't even feel the necessity and the urgency to strive for the higher level, right? Sometimes the Kanishta Adhikari considers himself a guru and consequently falls down. I remember when Srila Narayana Maharaj was giving his sannyasis permission to initiate. He was planning to leave this world, and he was going to do it, I guess, within the next year. But even 1 year before, he was laying the foundation for how things would continue. And at that time, he gave sannyasis who wanted the permission. He said, however, you should be at least on the, he says, ideally, it's Uttamadikari. But if you are Madhyam Uttam, in other words, topmost Madhyam, that's the best. In other words, one who's in asakti, because you have quite a bit to give then, and also you're very strong and protected. But Madhyam is all right. In other words, as long as you're chanting Shuddhanam, Ruchi, that's very good. He said, less than that, it's not so good to try to be guru. And Ashram Raj asked him the question, what if one is a Kanishta devotee? And he said, oh, he will fall down. He won't be able to maintain. Because taking disciples means to take on the burden of the disciples. Diksha, taking on their sinful reaction, all the difficulties of their life. If you're not chanting Shuddhanam, how will all that be burned to ashes? How will you be able to digest that? You won't, and you'll become overwhelmed by misconceptions, by pride, even by offense. Because if you're Kanishta, you don't know how to treat people, and you will offend more advanced devotees. So no, Kanishta by no means should become a guru. So sometimes the Kanishta Adhikari considers himself a guru and consequently falls down. Therefore, by carefully offering appropriate respect to those Vaishnavas who are more advanced than him, he should take shelter of the holy name. Okay. So there's so much in that. I think I really have to go to Srila Prabhupada's purports. I'm just going to pick out a few things. It's many, many, many pages. How many pages? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A lot of pages of purport. And I've read this a few times. But he begins by saying, in order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, verse 4 was what? That was dadati patignati guyam akyati prichati bhunkte bhunjayate chaiva sadvidam priti lakshanam. How devotees relate together, right? By offering gifts, receiving gifts, in relationship to service, things that are, and that can mean to one's guru, to the pure devotee, but even amongst regular devotees, we help each other in that way. We exchange confidential realizations with one another, or we're inquiring from Sri Guru about confidential topics and very attentively hearing, and offering prasad and receiving prasad, right? So, in order to understand how to apply these, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. You can't do these exchanges of love on a meaningful higher level with the Kanishta Adhikari. You can do it to some extent, but you have to understand on what level that person is. And if you're a Kanishta, you're not exchanging deep confidential realizations about your bhajan, about rasa, about so many things. You can talk about preliminary conceptions and help each other, but you're not on this higher level. So you have to learn these principles and how to apply them properly according to who you are and who the person that you're speaking with is, right? It's offensive to offer the respect and interaction that you would to a madhyam or an uttam to someone who's a kanishta. It's not appropriate for them either. It's harmful for them. So, Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with three types of devotees, the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari. Now, this verse has been described in many different ways. The Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttam, there's descriptions in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's descriptions by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and sometimes it appears that they're describing these different personalities in different ways. They're ascribing different qualities, different, they're maybe being more lenient. Who's a Kanishta, who's a Madhyam, who's an Uttam, right? Because Mahaprabhu, when he describes Kanishta, he means one who's begun chanting Shuddhanam just one time. And Madhyam, who's always chanting Shuddhanam. And Uttam, we'll hear those verses. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur seems a little bit more lenient in his description than Saraswati Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, if you read his just superficially, you read it in such a way that it appears that he's describing it differently throughout the whole purport, right? It's very important to consider these subjects carefully. And Srila Prabhupada here he says the Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind. So, just your ordinary rank and file beginning devotee, right? So many everywhere, right? There are thousands of us under Srila Prabhupada's direction. You take initiation and you've begun the process of chanting. And that's respectable. Oh, look, they following Sri Guru to the best of their ability. A Madhyam Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Raman Jukti Jai Jai Shrimati Lalita Shrimati Vishaka Shri Rupa Manjari Shri Bhakti Manjari Srila Prabhupada Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Jai Jai. A Madhyam Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, if you live in a temple environment, you'll see people that just come, they're kind of here and there, they're just getting used to everything. He's saying a Madhyam now, he's taking it up, and they're fully engaged. They have deeper faith, deeper understanding, deeper commitment, and they should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. He would call them second-class devotees sometimes. Kanishta's third class. The Uttam Adhikari, or highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. An Uttam Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean, and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. That means They know themselves, their spiritual identity. They know Krishna. They have the ability to witness these pastimes, meditate on their service internally. Extraordinary position. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Mahabhagavat or perfect Vaishnava is most desirable. Absolutely. Now here's something. Gurudev would always quote Srila Prabhupada saying this when he was exhorting all of his followers, who included his own disciples and many, many disciples of Srila Prabhupada like myself. He would say that it's very important to understand these different stages and to strive mightily to come into Madhyam. Madhyam is not a simple thing. And Srila Prabhupada says, one should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated on the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshiping the deity in the temple. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 3 different descriptions. And now in this one, 2nd chapter, this is instruction by the Navi-Yogendras to Maharaj Nimi. Acharayam eva haraye pujam ya shraddhaye hate na tad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smrita. Now, a person who is very faithfully engaged in worshiping of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave towards devotees or people in general, is called prakrita bhakta or kanishta adhikari. So when the word shraddha, faithfully engaged in worship, is applied here, what does it mean? Srila Narayana Maharaj said elsewhere, it means conventional faith, ordinary faith, not transcendental faith. They have some faith in the deity, right? But it's not very deep faith because they don't respect devotees. If you have faith in the Lord, then automatically you're going to have great faith in the devotees. Like on every altar, there's Radha and Krishna. On this altar, of course, they're their eternal associates. And, Lalita, Vishaka, Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari. But right there also, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, those kind of personalities, all right, okay, I'll worship them. But beyond that, do you recognize other devotees on the Madhyam plane or other Uttamadhikaris? No, the Kanishta can't, and therefore they'll criticize even Uttamadhikaris. And that's a symptom. You may not be in the same institution or sangha or even sampradaya as an Uttamadhikari, but you should never disrespect them, and you should honor them when the opportunity presents itself. And to neglect them, or to speak of criticizing them, is very detrimental to one's bhakti. It can actually cause you to fall down. You may justify it. Oh, they're not part of my guru's institution. I know what my guru wants. We are the true followers. Isn't that the symptom of worldwide religion? All the religions of the world, they're all kanishtas at best, because none of them can truly see spirituality, recognize it, and honor others, right? And when they do give honor, it's to people that are not deserving, blinded. They're not elevated yet. So, one, therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, after saying one should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, he says, one, therefore, has to raise himself from the position of Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyam Adhikari. There has to be an urgency there. Because bhakti, it's very easy to become complacent. Because bhakti is comfortable. Even Kanishta is very comfortable in the temple, in the environment. Oh, we got things in a certain way, everything's nice. But you don't want any disturbance to that little comfort zone, that little bubble, right? And if there is a disturbance, then our tendency for criticizing, not appreciating, that comes to the forefront. So we don't want to, and the thing about that is, in that little bubble, not so much problem with material miseries, right? You don't have to strive too hard in some crummy job. You're living in a temple. You got 3 hots and a cot, you know. You got your bed. You got your meals, you know. Pretty simple, right? A couple times a month, someone might make something special you like. You know, every day it's pretty good. Yeah, hey, you know. But you have to raise yourself from the position of Kanishta, because Kanishta is a dangerous platform, because you're always tendency to criticize, and you can fall from that, or take bad association, impersonalists, Mayavads, and you become afflicted by it very easily. So the Madhyamadikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam in this way. Ishvare taradine shu, bali sheshu dvisatsu cha, prema maitri, kripopeksha, yakaroti samadhyama. The Madhyamadikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love. And that would also include his eternal associates, including the Uttam Mahabhagavat Gurus, right? Worshipping them as the highest object of love. Makes friends with the Lord's devotees. That means with Madhyams. That's assuming you're a Madhyam, you make friends with your peers, right? This is your favorable association. Is merciful to the ignorant and innocent, right? And avoids those who are envious by nature. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. Therefore, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has advised us how to treat various devotees. And he says, we can see from practical experience that there are different types of Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada's purports are so ingenious, because now he's going to drill down to show us. I was thinking I want to skip and just bring out a few highlights, but I'll just read this next part. The Prakrita Sahajas generally chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, yet they are attracted to women, money, and intoxication. Right, so who are Prakrita Sahajas? People that make a show of being devotees. They may even be performers of kirtan, even professional kirtaniyas, right? And they go everywhere, chanting, and appearing to enjoy and be situated happily in the chanting of the holy name. But they're not really tasting or experiencing the holy name, because they maintain attachment to women, money, intoxication, or men, money, and intoxication. So they're chanting, but they're chanting for completely different reasons, right? And that can include the obvious suspects, right, that are more easy to recognize, like you see them all the time, and they will chant the holy name, and they'll also chant the name of the demigods, and right, but they're mostly attached to the musical presentation, their prakrita moods, their imitative moods, right, their emotional displays, and then the happiness of mingling together in this impure environment, right, of intoxication and enjoying inappropriate relationships with opposite sex. And of course, you got to pay them. They're not yet purified. He says, Srila Prabhupada says something interesting here. He says, you can respect within one's mind, but their association should be avoided. What does that mean? Well, maybe there's some namabas there. If they're just chanting with ignorance and imitative, but they're not striving for, if they're not committing 10 offenses consciously, maybe they're not apparatis, maybe they're just grossly attached. All right, let them be, let them chant. Very good, right? But these are not the apparatis, these are not the ones to be avoided. These are the Prakrita Sahajas, just materialistic people, just beginning, right? Go to Burning Man and see them there. Go to all these kirtan festivals and see them there, right? Those who are innocent, but simply carried away by bad association, should be shown favor if they are eager to receive proper instruction from pure devotees. Right? So they're different. These other ones, they're not really so interested in coming into the devotional fold. They like their situation. They like that place, using kirtan for their own purposes. But the innocent, they have a different reaction. They're charmed and intrigued by all of this, right? They're just in the wrong, like Vrindavan uses his example. He used to go to all these yogi things, right, in Oregon, tons of groups. But then some devotees he saw them at one of these festivals, like a Bhakti Fest or something. But then he saw the devotees, and then, when he became attracted to that. And then it just took a little time, and then there you go, right? Innocent. But those neophyte devotees who are actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master and are seriously engaged in carrying out the orders of the spiritual master should be offered respectful obeisance. That's the community of devotees, right? Because we have lots of neophytes, right, who take initiation, right? They're still on the Kanishta plane, but they're serious, they're innocent, they're enthusiastic, right, humble and submissive. In the Krishna consciousness movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color, right? See, that's the mood. We try to open our doors to everybody, but some people, they reveal themselves as not really being interested in the full thing, in the real thing. They still have desires to use the facilities, use the holy name for their own purposes. But if you're innocent and you want to advance and develop, then that person, yes, we want to stay in that association. We want to encourage you. We want to respect you, right? We give a chance to everyone, right? And when we see that everyone is invited to join this movement. Sit with us, take prasad, and hear about Krishna. In other words, you want to be part of the community. Sit with the devotees, take prasad. Hear the class. Come to the programs, chant the holy name. Then you're qualified to stay in the community and to continue to advance. Just living in proximity doesn't qualify you, right? That's not, you can say, we're all devotees, but no. These are the qualifications. And Srila Prabhupada started a worldwide movement where he took in everybody. When I joined, you can't believe some of the crazies we had, I mean, we were all crazy. We were all crazy. But over time, remarkable transformations would take place. I'm not going to tell all these stories, but there were people that were absolute madmen who became really steady, fixed up, incredible personalities because they were innocent and sincere and they took to the process, right? And when we see someone who's actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And when a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be accepted immediately as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisance should be offered unto him. So what does it mean, actually initiated? It means, disciple means what? Discipline. I now will live under the guidance and order of Sri Guru and senior Vaishnavas. That's actual initiation. Sitting down in a yajna, hearing the holy name, that's not initiation. You can even go through the ritual. Initiation is an exchange of the heart, an expression of surrender and submission. Diksha. Di means divya gyan, I'm eager to receive spiritual knowledge. Sha, unwanted things, I'm eager to discard and give these things up, right? So then he goes on and he says, out of them, many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnav should be accepted as an Uttamadikari, a highly advanced devotee. Now, and his association should always be sought. Now, sometimes I have heard devotees, godbrothers and others say, well, I'm a big guy, I'm a head of an institution, I'm always, sending people out on Sankirtan, I'm always thinking about how to expand book distribution, I chant my 16 rounds, right? I'm following regulative principles. When we talk about following regulative principles, we're talking about mind, body, and senses, speaking, and internally in the mind, completely purified and always absorbed. The mind's not wandering anywhere. It goes back to that other definition, right, that we heard earlier. Completely internally absorbed as well, generally purified, and chanting prescribed number of rounds. What's that? He's going to say later in his purport, oh, we tell our disciples to chant 16 rounds because that's all they can do. That's pretty much what he says. He says, but my Guru Maharaj says, unless you're chanting a lakh, you're fallen. Right? And what does it mean to chant? It means to chant without offense. No shadow of the 10 offenses at all. No namabas at all. Shuddhanam. Fully chanting Shuddhanam. And always thinking how to expand, again, one completely absorbed in the mission and order of one's guru. Right? But it's very high. So then he quotes Mahaprabhu, actually Chaitanya Charitamrita, 4th chapter of the Anjalila. I think this is Mahaprabhu speaking. Yes. Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpan, sehi kale Krishna tare, kare atma sama. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. Initiation doesn't mean the ritual. It means the full surrender in heart to Sri Guru. There's 2 kinds of initiation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada describes. There's Vidvadruti and Anukstani. Vidvadruti is this, a devotee fully surrendering to the service of the Lord, right? Fully surrendering to one's guru, completely submissive, whatever, it means Vishrambena Guru Seva. My mind, my heart, everything is given over completely to the mood and desires of my guru. That's actually initiation. That's what Mahaprabhu showed when he went to Gaya and took initiation from Ishwara Puripad. Immediate transformation. Right? That's what Ramanujacharya and our other acharyas, when they take initiation, the formality of it, immediate transformation being displayed. Right? Otherwise, when I was about to take sannyas, the night before, Srila Gurudev, where were we? We were in Govardhan. And Gurudev was giving a lecture. And he's saying, tomorrow, devotees are going to be taking sannyas. And I was sitting next to Gyanadas, who became Nemi Maharaj, my godbrother. And we're sitting side by side. And then Gurudev looked right at us. I'm sure maybe everybody in the audience thought he was looking right at them. He had that mystic power. But I know whoever else he was looking at, he was definitely looking right at us. And he said, so, the sannyas ceremony, to be given sannyas, doesn't mean you're actually sannyasi. It means you're beginning the process of becoming a sannyasi. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur says sannyas, the eligibility for sannyas is to be on the platform above. That's real sannyas. Right? He says, so it's beginning the process. And it's the same with initiation. For the vast, vast, vast majority of people, You may be beginning at Kanishta. You may, because of previous samskars, beginning at Madhyam. Some people get initiated and very quickly they, oh wow, so learned, so fixed, right? And even higher. But you're beginning the process from some point and continuing on. And then real initiation means to see oneself and one's relationship with one's guru on the transcendental platform. Who am I eternally? Who is my guru eternally? What is our relationship there? That's real relationship. He goes on to say, he quotes Jiva Goswami, in the Bhakti Sandarbha. Diksha or spiritual initiation is explained. Divyam jnanam jato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tasmad diksheti saprokta deshikais tattvakovida. By diksha, one gradually becomes disinterested in material enjoyment and gradually becomes interested in spiritual life. Okay, very condensed. So he goes on to explain what was happening in the Krishna consciousness movement. He describes divyam jnanam, right? Spiritual enlightenment. Tad vigyan, knowledge about the Supreme. Tad vigyanartam sagarum eva bhagachet. When you're interested in transcendental subject matter, should be initiated, right? Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigyashu shreya uttamam, right? If you really want the highest benefit, shreya uttamam, if you're jigyasu, if you're curious about that, then you take initiation from Sri Guru. Otherwise, just to be accepted in the group, to attain some status, oh, I have this person as my guru, or to get some advantage in a particular group. Now I'm initiated, now I can live here, now I can, use the facilities and gradually inveigle myself into a position of power. That happens in all institutions. Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj explained the irony of successful preaching. He says there's so much energy in a successful preacher, people are attracted to them, and then by that, facilities expand. Beautiful temples are built, facilities are there, ashrams, rooms, and then people become attracted to that, and they want to become managers and control that. Have an inside track on that. It's like a job, big position, and you may even get a salary. There are many offshoots of ISKCON where people get paid for their work. During Srila Prabhupada's time, nobody got paid. He said, no, we don't want to pay. If you want to get paid, you should, get a job. You should not live in the mat with the expectation to be paid, right? There may be some facility to help out householders if they're fully engaged, but salary is not part of it. If you want those comforts, then you have to go in the traditional way, in the Varnashram culture, and earn your money and practice your bhakti to the best of your ability. But when people start getting paid, and Bhaktivinoda Puri Maharaj said, the purity of the successful preaching gets eroded. And the institution, which was built on pure preaching, becomes influenced negatively by those kind of people. And they want to control and take advantage and use the facilities. And one should not accept a spiritual master without following his instructions. Nor should one accept a spiritual master just to make a fashionable show of spiritual life. Many other points he's making. He quotes, and this is something you can look up, after the Rath Yatra festival, Satyaraj Khan and the devotees, I think they're from Kalinagram, every year they ask Mahaprabhu, who is a Vaishnava? Right? How do you become advanced or Vaishnavas? Who is a Vaishnava? How do we recognize a Vaishnava? And every year, Mahaprabhu gave increasingly higher instruction, right? And then he quotes some very important verses. Oh gosh, what time is it? Let me see. Oh! We don't have time. Or do we? Or do we? Who's to say? If you don't want to listen, go away. I have to do this. Mahaprabhu instructing Sanatana Goswami, right? 22nd chapter, Madhya Lila, very important. Srila Prabhupada quotes this. He says, while giving instructions to Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu divided devotional service into three categories. Shastra Yukti Nahi Jane Dridha Shradhavan Madhyam Adhikari Sehi Mahabhagyavan. A person whose conclusive knowledge of Shastra is not very strong, but who has developed firm faith in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and who is also undeterred in the execution of his prescribed devotional service, should be considered a Madhyam Adhikari. Such a person is very fortunate. In other words, a Madhyam Adhikari doesn't have fully realized knowledge. They may be vastly knowledgeable compared to us, but they're not fully knowledgeable. But that's not a disqualification for being guru, because they're fully absorbed and they're greatly purified, right? A Madhyam Adhikari is a Shradhavan, staunchly faithful person, and he is actually a candidate for further advancement in devotional service. And then he quotes another verse in the same section to Sanatana Goswami, Shradhavan Janohaya Bhakti Adhikari Uttam Madhyam Kanishta Shraddha Anusari. One becomes qualified as a devotee on the elementary platform, the intermediate platform, and the highest platform of devotional service according to development of Shraddha, faith, right? Degree of your faith. Faith can move mountains, right? That's what they say. And then he quotes this other verse. This is all that same section. And this is a very fundamental definition. What is Shraddha? What is real faith? Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kahe Surhridar Nishchaya Krishne Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Kritahoya. By rendering transcendental service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident and firm faith, favorable to the discharge of devotional service, is called Shraddha. It means, in other words, the faith that if I just do devotional service, everything else that's important, meaningful, is accomplished. Or even if you are in any stage of life, if you're fully surrendered, you don't have to worry about anything else. And we have examples of that. We hear stories time to time on appearance days of different personalities. Jayadev Goswami, we heard so many beautiful stories about his surrender, right? And not independently aspiring for his own means in any way, and how Krishna would take care of him. So many devotees like that, right? Krishna would provide directly. And I've heard Srila Narayana Maharaj talk to ordinary people just like us, grahastas, and they're saying, oh, what do I do? He said, well, if you really understand what Shraddha is, just sit down. He said, chant 1 lakh of holy name without disturbance, with full faith. If you just do that every day, then everything else will be taken care of. But I don't have time. I have my job, this and that. Don't even worry about job. Don't worry about anything. Just if you were really fully surrendered to the holy name, Krishna would fully take care of you. Try it. Nobody could try it. It's too big a leap. But we could step by step try it, right? And sometimes if Krishna is very friendly and favorable to you, he'll crush you in such a way that I just can't do this other stuff anymore. I want to try and be full-time devotee, right? I don't want to. And then he quotes Krishna, or Arjuna telling Krishna, Salva me tadritam manye yan mam vadasi keshava. I totally accept as truth all that you've told me. This is the correct way of understanding Bhagavad Gita. This is called Shraddha. Let me see, there's one last thing. In this verse, he goes back again, there's many points leading up to this. When a person realizes himself to be an eternal servitor of Krishna, he loses interest in everything but Krishna's service. This is Srila Prabhupada's specialty, to take people off the street and to, no matter what they'd been doing previously, to live in that temple environment and lose interest in everything but Krishna's service. Always thinking of Krishna, devising means by which to spread the holy name of Krishna, he understands that his only business is in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Right? Such a person is to be recognized as Uttamadhikari. Let his association be immediately accepted. Right? Then he quotes again that Dadati Pratigrinati, the 6 exchanges of love. And he concludes by saying that Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The devotee should also know his own position and should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttamadhikari Vaishnava can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. One should not become a spiritual master unless he has attained the platform of Uttamadhikari. He said this many times. Gurudev said this many times. Yet, they also both give instruction. Despite this, a Madhyam can also initiate. He says, a neophyte Vaishnava, or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform, can also accept disciples. But such disciples must be on the same platform. In other words, if you're a Madhyam, you can't accept higher level devotees. They can be like, if you're a Kanishta, they can be Kanishtas. If you've come to Madhyam, they can be up to your level, right? But such disciples may be on the same platform, and it should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Therefore, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttamadhikari as a spiritual master. So the principle there is, for the purpose of preaching, spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, Madhyamadhikaris can definitely take disciples and spread the Krishna consciousness movement. But the disciple should also have the freedom that, they may want more instruction, or they may be attracted to the instruction of an Uttam Vaishnava for shiksha. And Gurudev always said that, yes, the Madhyam Guru then should say, yes, you can take initiation from instruction from that higher Vaishnava, and I will also take instruction from that higher Vaishnava. Shiksha. Our line is partly Diksha, but also it's a Shiksha line, a Bhagavat Parampara, that many of the most important acharyas in our line in succession weren't Diksha disciples of the one before, but were Shiksha disciples of them, right? And so the disciples should always be free to hear from high-class devotees, which was one of the offenses that was committed to Srila Gurudev and to many other advanced devotees when devotees of different institutions said, no, you can't hear from them. Even when devotees were very eager to hear from them, even devotees who were gurus who were eager to hear from them, and they were not allowed. That's not right. It's natural. It's loving to want to hear from higher Vaishnavas. It's not a threat. It's not an offense. It's a natural part of Vaishnava culture. And you read Jaiva Dharma, the Vaishnavas, very high-class Vaishnavas, happily intermingled to hear from other high-class Vaishnavas. That's part of the principle. But we have to study and know what these different kinds of Vaishnavas are so that we can practice and relate with each other appropriately, always striving for the higher platform. The Kanishta shouldn't be content with being a Kanishta, should strive to be Madhyam. So many stages of Madhyam, we should always be aspiring to go higher and higher, and we all want to be Uttamadhikaris. We have to have greed, right? By hearing this, you develop some interest, some greed, and that is the ticket to the highest platform, right? Tattva loyam. What is it? How does that begin, the verse? That verse it begins, Krishna bhakti rasa bhavatamati kriyatam yadikatopi labhyate. That one who has sufficient intelligence, inspired by this desire to come to this higher platform, should hear from persons who have that. And actually, tattva loyam api muyam ekalam. That's the only way, the greed to hear from these kind of people, to associate with them and to serve them, that's the only thing that's going to bring you to the higher platform. Not just by practicing rules and regulations in an orderly way. You've got to develop intense desire and greed. Otherwise, janmakoti sukritayana labhyate. You can develop even bhakti sukriti for many lifetimes. You can do yoga, meditation, all these other things, but greed to enter to this raganuga stage, that's the only thing. And to do it, you've got to associate with those kind of persons, uttam. So always on the lookout for that kind of person. All right. So, sorry I went a little bit longer. We'll offer obeisance to these topmost Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Ala Guru Parampara. Oh my God, I completely forgot. Today is the disappearance day of Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, the great disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. We offer our obeisance, honor him, thank him with great gratitude in our hearts for his contribution and sharing the glories of this extraordinary book. So, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.